Okay.
Yeah, just like 10, 15 minutes. So you can, this is a good place for you to introduce us because it's the first thing they see anyway.
All right. So, but you're going to edit this so you'll know exactly how to make it look less choppy as what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Fuck. What was that?
Right. You can smell that here. This mic's amazing.
I can smell your ex-girlfriend's breath on your side.
Oh, man.
Are you guys back together yet?
No.
How hurt are you still?
I think you got to hold your mic up there, Ron.
Hold my mic up?
No, Ron.
Right here.
Oh,
yeah, there you go.
Hey, Justin, do you have, with your mic,
it's way better.
Are you going to have one of those mover things? Like how it move it around?
I just have a tripod. It's because it's a shotgun mic.
So with mine, can I use a tripod too?
You should just get one of these.
Yeah, you can get a boom like a boom that a boom stand that Ronnie has. You can do that.
Oh, so this would actually fit in the boom stand, even though.
I'm not sure if it would fit. I mean, I'm sure it probably could screw right there with that bracket, that C bracket.
Yeah.
That'll work because that
thing goes in like
that'll
right
fit.
here.
Yeah, like see how his is. Yeah. Just get one of those boom.
Yeah, this is like $10, and you can get written nicer ones.
Yeah. So I'll probably get one right after this. I'm using the Evo car now. So there's now you can download an app where you could just use cars like how they use
like Ubers.
Use bikes on the streets.
Oh yeah, or you just jump into a car.
Yeah, here's the shitty part. Yeah, it's like I mean the cool part is it's anywhere in the city, but it is $15 an hour. So if you're gone for 4 hours, it's still cheaper. Unless you need to drive every day, I don't think I need a car right now. This is the first time I'm deciding not to use a car since I had my license at 16. So that was 30 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, where else are you gonna go? I mean, everyone's kind of So just save your money,
Yeah, and I went on this date on Hinge. Have you tried Hinge? Do you have a girlfriend, Ronnie?
No, I've heard of Hinge.
You've heard of a girlfriend. You heard of girls before, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought that's what you were saying. I was like,
why do you hesitate? He's like, what?
What?
What is this trick question?
Where's I don't know.
Dude, Ronnie answered like he was interrogated by the cops. He's like, yeah, I like girls.
I need mothers.
Where were you yesterday? I don't know what a girl is. What are you talking about? I don't know anything about a girl. There was a dead body found in your backyard last night. I've never heard of a woman. In fact, I put my dick on guys' dicks. I think that's what sex is. I don't. We formed a later age.
I'm non-binary. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I went on 2 dates in the last 2 weeks. One girl I like. Actually two. There's three. One is one who lives here that I've known before. Two is like Hinge dates. One was great, but does not call me back as often. One I hate and it's calling me back all the time, like calling me every day.
Hate her?
And I'm like,
what do you mean? What do you hate?
This is how life works. Whatever you want, you can't get. And if you do get it, it's for a split second, like Justin.
But
hold up. It was a split second. It was 2 weeks.
It was 2 weeks.
Not a split second.
It was 2 weeks. So
it felt like a split second.
You know, a baby doesn't even hatch in 2 weeks.
Wait, so
but
I want to know what you hate about the one that you hate.
Okay, we're having a good conversation. I thought it was going to go well. We talked about cruises.
Okay.
She worked as a cruise director, while I worked as a comedian on cruises.
Yeah.
And then she just told me she started banging everybody because, you know, and that's how everybody else is, right? You know how cruises are. You know, everybody fucks everybody. You know, the gang bangs. I'm like, no. And she's like, oh, you know, because, you know, I went through black phase. So 1 year was just pure Jamaicans, not even like other blacks, just Jamaican. I mean, you know, this is a date. This isn't a confession, right?
This is the first date?
Wow. Yeah.
This is the first date?
Was this?
This is the first date.
Was this date on Ash Wednesday? Or how did
it was actually Ash Tuesday.
Man, because she probably, you know, gave up black dudes for Lent or something.
That she did
afterwards.
Yeah, she went strict. Well, and then she was acting like I was going to agree with her everything she said. Like, right? Like, you know, like, and I'm like, yeah, like how Jokoy is in his act, right? But in Jokoy's act, you do agree because you're hypnotized. There's, you know, you're like, yes, whatever you say, Lord Joe, right? And she's trying to act like Jokoy that way. She's like, you know how it is, like you're into phases, and then after that, you're like, fuck that race because it got me pregnant. I'm like, what? And then
yeah, like,
I don't recall it. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I remember that happened to me. My body. I can't get pregnant, but I hate when that happens. And she was like, yeah, and so this Jamaican guy gets me pregnant, and after I go, so how's the baby? Like, how old's your child? She's like, hello, flushed it in the toilet. Like, I'm stupid. I'm always the stupid one in this whole conversation. Yeah, hello, dumped it in the garbage, kicked it like a fucking ball. Didn't want life to grow. Stupid.
Did she really say flush it down the toilet?
Flush it down the toilet, right? And after I'm like, wow. And she's like, yeah, but it's not as bad as Puerto Ricans. Puerto Ricans are the worst. Not only do they impregnate you, they have kids in their country. And I was like, you don't even know how racist you're being right now. That's not Puerto Ricans alone. She's white.
She white? She's white. See, me and Ron said at the same time together.
There's no ethnic girl that would say this stuff. Ethnic girls know what hurts because they hurt as more than white girls. White girls don't hurt. They want to get hurt, you know. And I just couldn't keep going on this fucking date. I'm like, that alone, the garbage, and then Jamaicans and Puerto Ricans, and then she'll be like, yeah, so now I'm into Asians. I'm like, oh, that's even worse. Like now I'm just part of the list of.
You're her fetish.
Yeah, for the month.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know what's weird? You know how, and she's one of those ones who talks like, you know, because he's such a pervert. The guy like dates 18-year-olds and he's like 40, and I'm like, you just told me you banged a 50-year-old that got you pregnant when you were fucking 19. Like you can't. If you're doing that, you can't call it out and say that's bad because you're doing it. Also,
Ron does that too. So
yeah, why offend me on my date? Do you think you're gonna get a second date? Are you gonna make fun of my 40-year-oldness? and she was this, and then she looks at me. She goes, look. She was like this, eating like this. She was like, so why me? I was so grossed out. So why me?
How old is she?
Like 22.
Dude, what's the problem? See, all this stuff is irrelevant.
All of a sudden, it makes sense.
Yeah, it also makes sense. I mean, she's not ugly, but I mean, just like, I've never seen somebody that was pretty that turned ugly within 5 minutes.
That's amazing.
It usually takes 2 years for me to see that the personality is an asshole after 2 years.
A lot happens in 2 years.
Yeah, like Justin's ex-girlfriend, you know, it doesn't matter what she did to him. He was always in love.
Let's learn more about this. So I'm really interested in this now.
Oh man, that's gonna be dude. Watch my podcast for that information.
Yeah. Watch his podcast.
What's up with your profile picture on Facebook?
Mine?
Whose?
You, Justin.
Oh, what do you mean? Which one? Which one are you talking about?
The one you have now.
Changed.
The one. Oh, did you change it? It's
the meme?
There's a couple. Yeah, it's like a meme.
Oh yeah. So I was we were in San Francisco at the Golden Gate Bridge, that park that overlooks the bridge, and my friend there and his girl, now wife, they were taking a shot with it in the background, and then I was taking a selfie, and then I noticed they were in the background, so I was like, let me just take a selfie, like this, with them in the background looking off, and it just looked sad the way I was looking off in the distance while they were happy in the background. So I made the meme. I made the meme when you're single and you see a couple.
See, I think it's hilarious that you do that, but all my friends that know you are asking me if you're suicidal.
I thought it was like a backhanded thing to your ex or something.
No, it was just me making fun of myself.
Yeah, but because there was stuff about your ex before that, like other posts before that, we're relating here's an example. This is what I did where everybody thought I did Botox. Basically, I went with my friend who did Botox. I went with him and videotaped him doing Botox in Calgary. And he was like, oh, my aunt, and then after that, the next scene was me, because someone told me I should smile more on my pictures and my Instagram pictures. Yeah. So I had a video right after going, I can't fucking smile. And everybody goes, oh my God, he did Botox.
Oh, that's so amazing. They were putting two and two together.
Yeah, so right before you have a picture of your ex and you have the heart, right?
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Right.
Now, the next one is you going to jump off a cliff in San Francisco Bridge.
Everyone kept telling me, don't jump. I was like...
I know, I'm like, Justin will never jump. He'll fall down.
Climb down.
I'll sprain my ankle and then roll down the cliff. That's
if I were to jump Justin's way of killing himself is not jumping off a drift. That's too much calories to burn.
Dude, my
ankles just roll down the cliff.
Yeah.
If you had to kill yourself, you'd flop so many times because you couldn't get the vert. Like this is how you'd be trying to kill yourself on a fucking this, and then there, that's it. And then roll down the side. God made you shitty angles so you wouldn't commit suicide. Basically, we have a friend, Chris Marzon, who, God bless his fat heart, he tried to kill himself in his garage. This is not funny at all. So
it's hilarious.
I don't know why we're all laughing, but
whoa, man! I don't even know what this is about.
It's a hilarious
he
story.
tried to kill himself because he didn't like his body. So he tied a cord around his neck. He jumped, and he tied it, and then the cord, he was so heavy it actually broke the beam.
Yeah,
and
you know those the wooden beams.
The wooden beams, and he was 360 pounds, so it just broke right through. So he told us, and I bit my tongue because I'm a good person.
Yeah.
You fucking liar. I told you the story and you laughed your head off.
And then tell Ronnie what you said when he told you.
Oh, what did I go? I'm like, damn, the cord killed itself before he did. The cord. I was like, how fat and dumb do you have to be to not understand the physics of suicide? You know what I mean? Like,
oh God!
Like, don't you understand? Like, tensile strength? Are these like terms that you didn't pay attention in fucking physical science class? Do you not understand tensile strength?
You know,
well, how
because he was a high school dropout, it saved his life. If he knew about this before the attempt, he would be dead. Thank God for lost education.
But he's good. He's not dead.
Dumb.
He's not dead now.
No, he's the Walking Dead right now. He's
God. What the fuck?
This dude got diabetes, high blood pressure.
He can't get hard. He has ED.
ED.
Wow.
Damn, I was gonna go there, but that's true.
I mean, if we talked about him trying to commit suicide,
don't kick a man while he's down. Talk about his dick. That's even worse. He's got high blood pressure. He's got he's got
He's our best friend.
allergies.
Basically, he's our best
worst. He's the worst right now.
Yeah.
But
He's a good guy.
Chappelle
though.
said it best. He's a good guy, but Chappelle was saying, you remember, Chris Christie, that the fat politician? So he's like, yeah, Chris Christie's body has all the fixins for COVID. That's basically Chris Marzan.
The fixins,
like,
yeah. I love that.
Whatever COVID eats, Chris's body has. That's basically the
Chris
same
is the
shit.
funniest, one of our funniest friends though. Like, he's not a comedian at all, because
His body is
the funniest. Like, one time Justin used to we used to hang out with him a lot, and he was telling him he has to work out. You know, he cries to us a lot about how he wants to lose weight, and we want to help him. We really do want to help him. But then he'll get crying. He'll cry. And then Justin will talk to him and really motivate him to start working out. He has a gym membership. He never goes. So tomorrow we're going to the gym. And the next morning, without fail, he's like, "No, man, I got to go to work. Last minute call. You don't know how it is to work." And then we're like, "Fine." And then Justin will go to the gym. And then fucking the guy puts on his IG, he's in a food festival with his son.
Food festival.
Like, not even like, you go to work. He basically did the opposite of what he was supposed to do, which was work out and start changing your life. He went
to
straight
celebrate
into
food.
it. And it wasn't just a food festival. It was like a deep fried Japanese octopus food festival. Octopus balls.
Yeah, with the mayonnaise mixed in and all that shit.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he was like live. He was going on Facebook Live on this food festival. I was like, "Are you fucking serious?" And then I was like talking shit to him live on the comments. Like, you're supposed to be working. You're supposed to be working right now. And then he said something like, he's like, "I mean, it's all good as long as I finish my work before the deadline." I'm like, "Motherfucker, dude, you're just full of shit."
Here's the
after
thing:
shit.
a lot of people are like, "Oh, you guys are mean because you're always..." No, he's posting these things before he does it, saying, "Help me. I need help. I need to lose weight. I need to change my lifestyle. Things have to change." And he calls for help and he begs for the world to help, and so we run to help. Because we really do consider him a friend. And then it's more like, "Oh, forget you guys. I wanted the attention. But now that I got it, I'm not going to do what you..." Like, everything is great right before the next day he's supposed to change.
Yeah, he just likes people feeling sorry for him. He gets more of a kick out of that than the actual help.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But he's our friend, but he's just... You know, we all have different degrees of friends that... You know, sometimes the relationship is you helping them more than them helping you.
Yeah.
You know, and some of it is the friend that helps me more than I help them. You know, we all have that.
Yeah.
You know, like when I hang out with Russell, I rarely can do anything for him besides do jiu-jitsu and stuff and maybe just make him laugh. But other than that, you know, he's paying for the dinners, he's driving, he's bringing me to the shows. Like, it's like I almost don't like that friendship.
Yeah, there's no exchange.
Yeah, I'm like, should I give you? Should I give? What can I give you? I can't give you anything.
Yeah, I hear you, man.
Yeah.
Russell tried to buy me like a $600 cardigan, or something like that.
That's crazy. He doesn't even buy me shit. You know what's fucked up? I think he does this on purpose, man. I'm not even joking. So this is like 15 years ago, right? We all went to Ottawa. Me, John Paul opened for him and Arthur Simeon or whatever. Oh, you met Arthur when we all went out, and he bought Arthur the fucking watch. Remember that?
Yeah, I was there when he bought the watch.
Yeah. So when I was in Ottawa, I went to the bathroom and I come back and everybody has new suits, and I'm like, "Oh man, these are nice suits." He's like, "Yeah, they're $1,200 each." I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah." I go, "Russ, man, can I grab a suit?" He's like, "Man, he went to the bathroom though, so we gotta go." I'm like, "Fuck." And then so every time I hold in my pee when I hang out with him.
It's not healthy, man.
Yeah, Ron has kidney stones now.
Yeah, I got so many stones because of this. And then and then one time I had to go so bad. We're in the Beverly Center. I'm like, fuck, I know what he's going to do. Me and John Paul. So I go to the bathroom, come back. everybody's laptops.
Everybody got laptops?
No. I go, can I have do I get a laptop? I was like, Ron, you went to the bathroom. I'm like, fuck, like, wait.
Oh, you think he's like, every time you go to the bathroom, he's splurging
He does it
on purpose.
Yeah. And then one day I just came to visit him in Pachanga from LA. I had nothing to do. So I was like, hey, Russ, I'm going to go hang out. And I go, I don't even want a spot. I just want to hang out. And he's like, all right, cool. And then after that, we're in the green room. He goes, you don't want a spot? I'm like, no, not really. I really came to hang out. And he's like, all right. And he does this. He does a show, and after the show, he comes up to me, gives me $1,200, just for nothing.
I was just about to say he still slips you like a couple grand here and there.
Yeah.
So
every year because I'll see him in a comedy store or whatever, and he's like an uncle. He'll like, hey, Ronnie Panani, whatever his nickname is, and he'll hug me, and then he'll touch my balls first. Like he'll be like this. Hey, there's something on the back of my shoulder, and then I'll look, and then from behind he does this to my nuts.
Nice.
This. So this is what it looks like.
Undercup.
Underneath.
he's paying you $600 per ball. Is what he's
yeah, and after I'm like, oh, right, because I have to pretend I don't like it, and then. That's the thing about hanging out with millionaires. You have to pretend you always like what they do. One time he beat up this man, and I was like, "Yeah."
And beat up this homeless drug addict
kid, and then he slipped me like $200. Like after he did this.
After you beat. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so he's that guy. He just he'll, and it's not he doesn't. I mean, sometimes he doesn't, but. You never know. Sometimes he just gives you a free laptop, $1,200. But to tell you the truth, I just really hang out with him. That's it. Like, I'm not even asking for money.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I turned down I didn't take that cardigan from him. It felt weird. I get what you're saying. It just kind of feels weird, like getting these random gifts that, you know what I mean? Like when you hang out with your rich friends.
Yeah.
It just felt weird to me.
It does feel weird. And to the point where I don't mention it. Like, Maz does it too. Like, I open for Maz a lot. And every time I open for them, I get paid by the Improv. So the Improv pays their middle a certain amount of money per show. And I'll look at it after the show, and it's double. And I'm like, oh, man, the Improv fucked up. Or Maz gave me extra. Why did I not mention and not say thank you to nobody and just run out? Like, that's the worst. Like, you're supposed to see $1,250 and you see fucking, whatever that is, 2,400, 500, and then you're like, all right, take care, guys, and then I leave, and then I get a call the next day to like our last show. Maz, someone's like, hey, you didn't say any thank you to everybody? I go, what? Everybody got paid last night and you just run? I go, why? It's like, Maz gave you extra money. And he's just staring there, and you look at this. All right, and then just boom. And I go, yeah, because what if they made a mistake?
That's what you said?
Yeah.
What if they
made a mistake? Me and the other opener guy, whoever's Wilson Vance or something. I'm like, yeah, but what if they made a mistake and then have to give that back? And they're like, then you give it fucking back. I'm like, oh yeah. You just say sorry. You just say, whoops, I thought it was. That's how desperate comics become. That they forget about their natural instinct to be courteous. I mean, not cordial.
You're also Asian.
Courteous. Huh?
They're also Asian.
Yeah, the Asian took over.
Yeah, it did. It just wanted that extra money.
Did Maz say anything to you?
Yeah, then Maz goes the last day. Were you okay with what I gave you?
Did he freeze?
Am I frozen?
No, you look fine to me.
Am I frozen to you, Ronnie?
Oh, now you're not.
You know why? Because I'm just speaking with my head straight.
Yeah, I couldn't tell, honestly. I couldn't tell.
You know what? I'd be a really good a ventriloquist. Because you know what? Canadians should be natural ventriloquists because we don't overpronounce our letters. Like, we don't say out the same way you guys say out. We just say, look how small my mouth moves. Like when I say out.
It doesn't even move.
Out. Can you do that? Americans can't do that. You have to go out.
I mean, I can do it. I actually wanted to be a ventriloquist too when I was a kid.
Man, you had all the worst career choices.
And a juggler. I was juggling. What
do you want to be?
I was juggling for like 3 years.
Juggler, ventriloquist, magician. Wow.
Yeah, I just stuck with magic.
That's the hardest. You know, the hardest job outside of that is being that guy that pretends he's Bigfoot. Like, that's the hardest career because nobody knows, you can't get paid.
Yeah, no one knows who you are.
He's Bigfoot.
You know that guy that dresses up as Bigfoot who is on all those blurry pictures?
Oh, okay.
It's the same guy.
Thought it was real.
Yeah, the same guy every time.
That guy has the worst job because he doesn't even get paid for it. Like, he just dresses up as Bigfoot to fuck up the world.
Well, we should wrap this up.
Yeah.
And introduce him.
All right, let's do that.
Can I use the restroom right now? Are we?
Yeah, let me use the restroom too.
All right. Oh, just realized we didn't do any intros. Okay, well, on the show today is Leo Flowers, and here it is. Here's Leo.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Ron the World. This is our episode 41 or 40. I have to look at it. Not 100% sure, but we started this in March or May, and now we're still here. Hey, our guest today is a friend of mine that I've met through the Comedy Magic Club and also other comedy shows across LA, across the U.S. Is our guest today is Leo Flowers, everybody. Give it up for Leo. I think, you know Justin, right, Leo? You know Justin.
Yeah. I know Leo.
Yeah, for sure. What's up? Yeah, man.
Comedy Magic, international.
Yes, sir. Yeah, international, global. I like that.
International.
El Mundo.
So just back to what you were saying, you enjoyed how you can connect your comedy still translated in Karachi and didn't have to change anything, which was awesome.
Yeah, well, I think that was also part of a lot of comics will say, don't move to LA until you're ready, get your chops on the streets. But I did the opposite. Like, I moved to LA as soon as I wanted to pursue stand up. And I think as a result of that, my comedy is more global because I've had to play so many different rooms. In LA, it's like you just try to get on stage anywhere you can and do colleges, bars, coffee shops. I did, libraries, churches, wherever. So you realize, like, if I want as much stage time as possible and I want to bump people off of shows, then I'm gonna have to have a set that is something that connects and resonates with all people of all demographics.
Yeah. So you started in Chicago, or you actually started in LA?
No, I started in LA. But I'm from Chicago, and so from Chicago, I went to college in Indiana, and then after I graduated, I was like, I'm out of here. It's too cold, and I moved to LA, and then I started in LA.
So you actually, so how old were you when you actually started comedy in LA?
25, 26. So yeah, I started like when I was like 2001. I moved to LA, so I started like at the end of right after Christmas. Got on a plane.
That's
moved to LA.
That's when I started going there too. What did you see that change? Like, first of all, if nobody knows, this is like basically comics moved to LA or New York. Those are the meccas in North America, and when you go to LA, it's overwhelming because there's 1,000 comics, there's 100 open mics, there's 100 book shows, and there's maybe around 10 comedy clubs, 5 are the golden clubs that you have to go in and be seen. They're not slots. They're not spots. They're slots. It's like slot machines. You go up to get seen. So I saw him coming up in the ranks. Not even coming in the ranks. You're already established. Like with me, I moved there later. But I met him at the Comedy Magic Club and just killing audiences with really calm and relaxed persona, which is so much harder to do because even a Chris Rock interview is like, I have to be loud and get them to listen to me because I don't have the confidence to just embrace the silence or the actual people that could be listening, where Chappelle has more of that confidence of, let me not give them the energy to give back to me. Let them come to me. That's a style that you have, and how'd you learn that style? Because it's so opposite from LA.
Man, that's a great question. I think part of it is I'm more of a storyteller. And I think that when you are more of a storyteller than like Chris Rock is trying to spit out facts, and he's trying to prove a point. And he's not on stage. He's in a courtroom. And Your Honor, here's why he
Your
did
Honor.
it.
Yeah.
And so when you are presenting the material in such a way of like, I'm right and here's why, and man, he's on the attack. He's aggressive. Then you can't leave any room for silence. Because your style is an aggressive style of attack, whereas I'm the turtle, man. Like I want to take my time. I feel like I have enough of a story that you'd be interested in. Like I'm a black dude with a master's degree. I used to counsel inmates and married couples. I woke up paralyzed twice from playing college football.
Wow.
A life coach. I lived out my car. I have a dad who lost his leg to diabetes. A mom was an immigrant from Belize. Like, I had 3 sisters, 2 who I met at my dad's funeral. There's so many aspects to my personal story that is not boring, that's interesting, that, so at some point you're gonna latch on to. And by the way, it also allows me to talk about bigger issues. I can talk about immigration because my mom is an immigrant. So now I'm not just up there telling jokes about immigration. I'm like, no, I'm talking about it through the lens of my mom and my experience. So you can't take that away from me. There is no right or wrong. It's just my story about, having an immigrant mom and growing up half, Belizean. So it's more personal. And I think when your story is more personal, you could take your time and let it breathe.
How your mom is West Indian and your dad is from America, right?
So my mom is from Central America. Belize is like right below Mexico. And then my dad is from Alabama, Anniston, Alabama.
Wow.
Yeah, where Monsanto was like, God,
what
man.
the hell? So he saw some shit, man. He saw some shit.
He hates white people. Hates white people. I can say that now because he passed away. He's dead. So I can say that now.
Wow, dude. What did he tell you? What are the stories of back then?
That's so the crazy thing is, so my dad being from the South and his Southern men have done, he had more than one family going at the same time. So I was the North Side Chicago family, and then my dad had a South Side Chicago family. He was a DJ. He was like JedRocks. He had 2 families going on at the same time.
That's also a Filipino thing.
What? Have 2 families? Oh yeah.
Yeah, one in North America, one in the Philippines.
You usually find out when you're 18. They're like, you have a sister and she has the same nose as you. You're like, what? Why you tell me now? Because you would have left us before, and then we would have to find you. Like, my dad was smart when he told us his secrets. He told us at the right time.
Yeah.
Ron,
Yeah, I mean,
remember
I knew
Brace?
from when I was a kid, man. My
That's
mom, they
crazy.
just trusted me. They knew I wasn't no snitch from like the age of 2. They was like, listen, your dad is married and he has 2 daughters, and go to bed. It was like, all right, cool. That's just how it is in the streets.
Wow.
So,
Unfucking believable,
so he didn't
man.
tell me anything, is what I'm trying. He told me no stories because he wasn't around to really tell me the stories. He was with the Southside family.
So how was it growing up in a household where your mom was an immigrant and your dad was American black man from Alabama? That must have been really good for him too, because this is a woman that really didn't experience the shit that he had to go through. That's kind of fresh. Like, hey man, what's up?
Well, it's the reason why they never got together. So like my mom and dad never got together. Like they just hooked up because he wanted a son. Back in the day, men thought that women dictated the sex of the child. And so his wife gave him 2 daughters and he wanted a son. So he came to my mom's like a G. He was like, yo, I got 2 daughters. I want a son. My wife can't give me a son. What you talking about? And my mom was like, I'll give you a son. And she did. So they hooked up
Damn.
just to pop out a son. And, so my dad stopped through every now and again, dropped off some loot, got a little booty. And then, so it was like that growing up.
Damn.
And my mom didn't even want him around. My mom was like, he cool. He cool as like a father figure and a person that she knew I could look up to. But like she knew early on that he was too strict. And my mom's a woman of the streets. Like she don't like to sit around. She's 80 and she's always running the streets and or 70. I'm sorry, she's 70 and she can't sit down, man. She and so they never got together. So it was just me and my mom and my younger sister growing up.
Where's she living now?
Wow.
Oh, your mom.
My
Is your mom
mom's in
alive?
Chicago. Mom's in
Oh
yeah,
wow,
mom's gonna live to about 100, man.
that's amazing.
My great grandmother lived to like 90, 95. My grandmother lived to be like 85 or something. So mom's got some more. She got like 10 to 20 years on her.
We had that
Wow.
conversation in your podcast a couple of years ago when I was at your place, and I think you were saying how much if you wanted food or you wanted to, you have to wake up, get out of your bed, walk out and work for it, whatever you're doing, and that keeps people healthy and is probably the reason why a lot of island people can go to 100, or a lot of these places that people live over 100 because they're always out. There's a
active.
documentary on what they called Centennials,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah,
always go out. They always go out.
when you gotta walk for your food
Yeah,
every day, I mean, now you can go a week, you go months without ever leaving your house. You could go forever if you got Uber Eats and all those things. But when you have to walk up a hill or down a hill or around a thing, and not only go get the food that you want to eat, but you got to carry it back because it's not cooked. So you got to
yeah.
walk to go get it, carry it back, and then you got to cook it. I mean, I don't know I know you cook beans, man, but beans, corn, a lot of that stuff. I mean, people found out during this quarantine how hard it is to really show up and go get the food, chop the food, cook the food, wash the dishes,
Hmm.
right? And then you got to do that. I mean, you there is no time to sit down and Netflix and chill. If you're really living this whole healthy, of the earth lifestyle, there's no time, man.
And because you're always into health and you're also a life coach, how did the pandemic affect you? Did it make you dig deep and go, okay, you want to prove it to yourself that you are mentally, physically healthy in this time, or did it kind of fuck you up like it did to a lot of people?
Man, yeah. So it did both, Ron. It absolutely the quarantine made me go, all right, I gotta hunker down. I gotta drop anchor. I gotta gather the resources, and I gotta develop a team and a squad. And at the same time, it screwed me up, man. I was, there was bouts of loneliness, boredom, anger, disappointment, rage. Because, not only, during this pandemic where we're talking about COVID and all that, but you had the pandemic, you had the protests. So, I mean,
Yeah.
even if you're not reading the news, I have three black sisters. So, they
Hmm.
hit me up with all the videos, the articles. I got a large extended family. They sending me stuff. So you can't escape it. And then you also have I forget what the other thing was that happened, and then you have the presidency. It was like, and
Jesus.
it's like, so there was so much happening all at once, and at the same time, it felt like nothing was happening. You know what I'm saying, Ron?
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah. It was as if you were in
God,
Totally.
like,
purgatory and
yeah, it
feeling
was, it
and couldn't
was,
do nothing about
yeah.
it.
Absolutely. So, thankfully, I'm privileged enough. They usually don't talk about black people don't talk about their privilege, but if you're a good-looking, articulate black person, you have a lot of privilege
Hmm.
because then you get extra brownie points from
Right.
everybody for reading Tolstoy and Dostoevsky, and So, I was able to. I got a therapist. I got at the beginning of this pandemic. I go, I'm not going to survive this alone.
Right.
I knew that from the very beginning. In my head, I was like, we're not going to be in this pandemic for a few weeks or a few months. We're going to be in this for at least a year.
Yep.
And I need a team around me. So I got a therapist. I got a couples therapist because I knew me and my girl were going to be
Hmm.
at each other's throats. I had no romantic notion. That's the thing about reading great literature is that you get a realistic view of what real life is. And instead of like when you watch movies or Disney movies where you're like, oh, it'll be peaches and roses and we live happily ever after. No, I read Tolstoy. I read the classics. I read the dark stuff. And so
Yeah.
I know stuff can go south really quickly. So I was like, I need a couples therapist. I need an individual therapist. I got an acupuncturist, a masseuse. Um, I'm taking guitar lessons online. I've signed up for sign language. I got a sign language teacher. I got a Spanish teacher. I was just like, I need to surround myself with as many people and as many things so that I have these anchors and things that don't let me get too far off. Because I already knew I was going to go off track. There's no way you went this entire pandemic, this entire year, and you didn't go off track in places. So
It's
I
true,
was
but
like,
yeah.
the more anchors that I have, the further the I won't get too close to the sun. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Because you could see it
Uh,
burn. You could see people burning from
you
the
I saw
sun.
people get I saw people with more resources. I saw greater people than me get burned up by the sun. And so I was like, listen, I can't do this by myself. And my girl has been amazing, and I felt like we've been on the same page for the most part. And where we haven't been on the same page, we've been able to work through it and talk it out. So I had no illusions about this pandemic from day one. I was like, I always think worst case scenario. So let's hunker down
Yeah,
now.
because before the pandemic, people really were focused on their physical health, not and their mental health. But as soon as the pandemic happened, you were like, okay, you spend so much in physical health, yoga, working on a gym, eating certain kind of diet. Now it's a mental stress that nobody was prepared for. The fact that you had a team that you put together with a couples therapy, a regular personal therapist, and also you going online learning some classes and putting comedy in the back burner for the time being is what you had to do to survive as a comedian, because you couldn't rely on that for happiness anymore. You know?
No, not, you know what? And I think what's gonna come from this is that we're gonna the comedy I think will be better overall. I think comics are gonna go on stage and talk about things that are deeper to them because we've had a year to be introspective and reflective and connect with people that I started a men's group even during this whole thing because all my boys are everybody was quarantined and everything, and and they got families and kids, and I was like, man, I need a social connection. So I started a men's group of some guys, people I've had on the podcast. So we meet every week. So um, um, I forgot where I was going with that, but also the social health. We talk about mental health, physical health. There's also that social aspect that I recognized early on that I needed, to connect with other people outside of the household.
And as
But
because you do life coaching, that had to come into
mhm.
play. You had to put yourself as a student as your own words, because you
Yeah,
had to survive it
absolutely.
too. And because Jed is also a life coach, and he's learning to being a better life coach. Uh, how long have you been life coaching for?
Man, since day one, I feel like
Hmm.
growing up in a single parent home. I don't know. Did you grow up in a single parent home, Ron, or no? You had both
No,
parents.
but I did. But my mom was in a wheelchair, so it almost felt like I was the mother. I told you this in the
Got you.
podcast. Yeah.
So whether you grow up in a single parent home or you have a parent who has some type of physical disability, um, you become more than just a child or a son. You become a parent in some ways. You become a boyfriend, a husband, a brother, a best friend. Like you have to grow up very quickly, and so you're wearing a lot of different hats. And one of the hats I had to wear was I was a mediator between my mom and my younger sister because they would butt heads all the time. They're both like, red blooded. And so I would literally, Ron, have to sit my family, my mom and my sister down at the dinner table and have them talk out their issues and
Jesus,
with
I used to
hopes
do that
of
too.
helping or resolving it. Yeah, and my friends, would always come to me for advice on relationships and life and things like that. So from day one, man, it's been in the blood, and it's just, it was just a matter of my education catching up to my experience. Really is what it was. Getting a master's in counseling psychology, and then I was counseling inmates and married couples. So all these things it was already there. The seeds were already there.
So you have a degree? Is it a degree or
Master's degree,
master's
yes.
degree in psychology, not psychiatry. Psychology is the
And
study of the
right,
brain,
right,
right?
right. Well, the difference between counseling psychology and psychiatry is if it was in psychiatry, I'd be able to prescribe you, those
Medication,
good
yeah,
drugs.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, those feel goods. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But if you're not a psychiatrist, then you can't prescribe those
That's
things.
so interesting because you are in a career where you have to analyze the crowd constantly, and people after the show that try to book you, people trying to fucking snake you. So you can read someone pretty clearly for their intentions as a psychoanalysis major. Really, that's what you really do. So you kind of go with this person I put in this category, this person I put in that category in terms of what you deal with, what you've learned. Because of that, here's a question: what makes a comedian do comedy in a psychological point of view? Because we all have some fucked up problem that made us want this attention and not get paid for it for your first 2-3 years.
Well, that's a great question. And to be honest, I don't know if there's anything specific to why someone becomes a stand-up comedian. I think it's like anything. Like if you like baking a cake or putting a car together, there are different factors that have to come into play to make you want to entertain. I could easily say, well, it's a screwed up childhood. You wanted attention, blah blah blah. But then you have a guy like Jerry Seinfeld who
Right.
when you hear him in interviews, he talks about growing up in a healthy household, and apparently he has very little feelings of inadequacy or emptiness. So
Right.
I think it's individual to the person.
Right.
One is, you have a story you want to tell. I think the crux of it is you have a story that you want to tell, and you believe that stand-up comedy is the best way to tell that story. And I think
Wow, that
that's
makes
at the
sense.
foundation of it, right?
Yeah, because
It's
some
like you have
people
these
want,
things,
yeah,
right? Some people will write a book to tell their
yeah.
stories. Some people get into spoken word or poetry, or they become lawyers or filmmakers. But there's something about you know being on stage one on one. This is my story, unedited. It's probably like a control thing too that comes with it, where because it's not really collaborative, right? It's you're kind of it's collaborative in a sense that the audience is giving you feedback,
Mhm.
and you're reading, other people's responses and reactions to what you're talking about. But for the most part, you're a lone wolf. You're a sniper up there, and you're willing to live and die on your own word. So there's a bit of a man on wire, complex
Yes.
kind of going on.
When you started in LA, who was your first friends, or who inspired you first of all, and who became a friend of yours that kind of helped you hang? Because you kind of need a crew of friends to hang out and just be an amateur comic to the point where you're a regular headliner and you could do your own thing and move by yourself. You kind of need that. Did you have friends to hang out with before in the open mic scene, and then that turned pro with you and past the clubs? And because you're passing all the clubs that I remember, who was with you at the times? Were you always by yourself as a lone ranger?
Ron, for all my I wish I had known the importance of forming a team at
Yeah.
that moment and being part of a clique. I really thought I could do it all on my own. And I walked around with that bravado and that sense of I don't need anybody. I'm just going to show up, be funny, and leave. And I didn't realize the power of relationships, of hanging out.
Hmm.
I thought it was like school. I had been in school
Me
my
too.
entire life. So if you
Hmm.
got an A, you passed, right?
Right.
It's like, so if I do well, if I kill, if I murder, if I connect, then I naturally should get past and progress up this ladder of
I know everybody
Hollywood
believes
success.
that sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. And then I start looking around. I'm like, I have an ego, but I feel like it's a healthy ego, and I'm sure
Mhm.
people with an ego always say that. But I was like, I'm so much funnier than that person, and they are making 100 times more money than I am, and
Yeah.
and all these different things, and more hype, and I was like, what? I was like, all right, there's something I'm missing, you know, and because I didn't have really a team and thought I could do it myself, there wasn't anybody to bounce ideas off of too much. But with that said, it wasn't until later, like I
Hmm.
don't know, 10, 15 years into the game. Early on, I'll say Cal Irby, Dion
Hmm.
Lack, Dominique Purdy, um, and this guy Joe Caffey. That was the crew right there. Even though we were all for the most part doing our own thing, Tony Baker. We had
I love Tony. What a great
yeah,
person.
Tony's
what a
awesome.
great person. And so we had
Unbelievable.
this thing called the Button Down Comedy Tour. We're all gonna do. So that was early on, but even then, I still didn't really sit down and talk shop with them. You know how guys
Right.
would go out to the diners after clubs. I
Yeah.
never did that. I was like, what? People were doing what? I didn't even know that was a thing. I thought you performed and went home and you listened to your set and et cetera, et cetera. So I was like, oh man, all the cool kids were hanging out, and here I was at home, like, oh, what else is there to do? So yeah, so I'm just now learning the power and efficacy of having a team and hanging out and being interested in people other than myself.
Which clubs did you start working in early, and then what's your favorite club now in LA?
Man, I mean, of course I got to say the Comedy and Magic Club. That
That's
that
amazing.
was
Yeah.
it's an amazing club, and
Right.
it's just never. It's just always what you want it to be. It's consistent. The audiences are great. The manager, the staff, the location, the food. I mean, from top to bottom and bottom to top, it is primo. Um, and then I also love the Comedy Store, and I love
Hmm.
the Laugh Factory, and I love the Improv. I mean, all those spaces that they're all special for different reasons.
When you
You know
got
what I'm
passed
saying?
for the Cellar, that's the hardest. Would you say the Cellar is the hardest club to be passed in America? Like, it seems like it's
I
just
mean,
as hard to get past at the store than it is the Cellar the last few years. You know what I mean?
man, and that was I can't even. Part of it was luck. Part of it was timing. It was all the things, Ron. I think I told you the story. I'm not sure, but me and another comic, I can't believe I forgot his name, is eating me up. We go to New York, and you're just hanging out. I got no plans. I'm just like, I got time to go to New York. Let me go to New York. And so we go to the Cellar because I want to get past there. I'm like, these are where the greats hang out.
Yeah.
And the booker is at the table with a bunch of other comics, and I'm sitting there with my buddy. I go, I'm gonna go talk to her, and he goes, No, 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 no. You don't just walk up to that table. Like
Oh my
you got to
god.
be you got to be asked over to the table. Like you got to be waved over. Like you can't just approach. Who do you think you are? I go, well, this is where I don't know how this is a healthy ego, unhealthy, whatever. I go, but I'm Leo Flowers. I can walk over to the table. I said that to him. I go, I'm Leo Flowers. I can walk over to the table.
This is
So
to
I walk over
Esty.
to
This is to Esty the
this is
Booker.
to Esty.
Jesus
So I walk
Christ.
up to Esty, and they're in a full born conversation. Marina Franklin was at the table. I forget who else. It was like God, it was like three other comics at the table. And I go, Hi, Esty. My name's Leo Flowers. I'm a comedian. And I extend my hand out, and she just looks at me like, Who are you? And everybody at the table just looked at me like, Who is this dude?
Jesus
And
Christ.
and my hand just hung out there for like an hour,
Ugh.
and it was cold. Oh, it was cold, Ron. It was January, but it was really freezing, and I just like slowly pulled my hand back, and I just
Ugh.
turned and walked away.
Fuck.
And yeah. So I sit back down and I said to my wife, I go, yeah, you're right. You just don't walk over to the table. Yeah, my
Jesus
bad.
Christ. And
So
then right then in my head I'd be like, oh, I'm done. There's no shot now.
So that's what I'm thinking, and I go, but at the same time, I'm thinking she hasn't seen me, she doesn't know me, and comics do this all. So I'm having compassion for her. I go, comics do this all the time. They just introduce and they want something from her, and so 2 years go by, Ron, and I'm at the Comedy Cellar, and I don't follow up. I don't send her an email. I don't try to reach out. Nothing. I'm at This is why the Comedy and Magic Club is my number one club. I'm at the Comedy and Magic Club, and the manager comes up to me and he goes, Esty is here, and she's looking for comics because they're opening a Vegas location. And he goes, so do what you're gonna do based on that information. So of course now I have no idea what to do. I don't know what she's looking because Ron, we both know like there's funny, right? You can be funny,
Yeah.
but if you're not the kind of funny they're looking for, and
100
there's
fucking
only
percent. Please tell us the
so
difference,
many
please.
slots.
A lot of people don't know, man.
Say it again.
Please tell us the difference because a lot of people don't know just because you're funny may not be the material that a club wants or a late night show wants. So they get mad. I'm funnier than that guy. Yeah, but there are categories
Yeah.
in this. So
Right.
what would you say
they're-
that made you decide what your material was based on your experience of hearing about ST?
So I always revert in times of competition. This is a competition now, right? This is war. This
is
is a
it when there's
battle.
10 people on, or is it that whole 40 people on that night? Because I did the 40.
It's like 10 people on or something that night.
That's
right?
a better showcase than the one I did. The one I did was like
Yeah.
60 people.
So here's what helped me. She had just come from the Comedy Store and didn't like any of the acts that she saw.
Wow, she didn't?
She didn't. She didn't pick anybody. So that told me something
Crazy.
that kind of gave me a sense of what she's not looking for.
Please tell me the
Does that make
difference.
sense?
Because
I
don't know.
So like when I think of Comedy Store comedians, they're a bit too nonchalant, acting like they're not really putting in effort.
Trying, yeah.
They're not really. It looks like they try to make it look like they're not really trying.
That's so fucking
Right?
true. Never
It's
noticed
the
that.
young ones, right? And even like the vets, they kind of have this like, hey, I'm just up here screwing around. But
Yeah.
but you get like the Eliza Schlesingers, the Sebastian Maniscalcos, where
They try.
you know,
They
like
try,
they're on a mission. Yeah, the Taylor Tomlinsons.
Jesus Christ, yeah.
So I go, okay. So whatever I do, it has to be an act. It has to feel like there's a beginning, middle, end, right?
Right.
So I know that off the bat. I need her to know that I'm a professional. That's what she
Yes.
wants, right? The second thing I think of, I go, I don't really know what she's looking for. So what I can control is the audience. You can't really control how one person responds to it. Like that's you're hanging your hat on a lot. But if the audience loves me, then she can't deny me. That's how I viewed it. And I got that from not Braveheart? What was the other movie? Are you not entertained?
Gladiator.
Are you not Gladiator?
Yeah.
Right.
That's
So
right.
I don't know if you remember the scene
I
where
remember.
the Gladiator is about to go out there in his first one-on-one fight, and he's talking to his manager, agent, the guy who kidnapped him or whatever.
Yeah.
And he tells the manager, he goes, "Oh, I'm gonna kill this guy in a matter of seconds. Like this won't be nothing. I'm gonna cut his head off." And the manager goes, "No, you can't do that.
I know.
If you kill him too quickly,
Yeah.
the audience will hate you,
Holy
and the king
fuck.
will have to kill you." He goes, "You have to entertain the audience. You have to give them their money's worth, their time's worth.
Right.
So you have to drag it out."
Mhm.
And that always stuck with me. So when I'm in some type of where I feel like I'm competing, I go, okay, if the audience loves me, the king can't deny me. He can't thumbs down me. And I was like, I have to go out there and be the fan favorite, the audience favorite, and then let that convince her to book me. So I go out there and I do what I felt that night was going to really connect with the audience. And I walk off stage and the manager walks up. He goes, "Hey, man, let me talk to you." And I go, "Oh, man, like I must have just dropped the ball. I must have embarrassed him." Yeah. And he walks me down this long hallway. And at the end is Esty.
Unbelievable.
And Esty is standing there. Remember, now it's been 2 years.
Huh.
And she goes, "Hi, my name is Esty.
Fuck.
I don't know."
That's a dream. That's a dream.
Yeah.
Right,
she didn't even remember. She goes, "I have a club. I don't know if you've heard of it, called the Comedy Cellar.
Jesus
We're
Christ.
opening." Yeah. She's so
I have
humble.
it tattooed on my arm. What are you talking about?
She's so humble. She goes, "We're opening a new location in Las Vegas. We're looking for comedians. And I'd love for you to be one of those comedians."
Oh God. What a great story.
And she goes, "Would you would you be interested?" I go, in my head, I'm like, would I be interested? Are you fucking kidding me? I want to pick her up and hug her and spin her around, But I go, "Oh yeah." I was like, I'd love to. Absolutely. I appreciate that. And I extended my hand, and this time she took my motherfucking hand, Ron Josol. She took it, and she put her hand out first this time.
Nice.
You know what I'm saying?
I didn't even. Sorry.
What's up?
What I love about that story is what you said in the beginning, where go to LA when you're ready. No, it doesn't fucking matter because there's too many comedians. They can't remember everybody.
No, they can't, man.
Maybe that made sense in the 70s and 80s when there was like 20 comics.
Great point.
You
Great
know,
point. Yeah.
it doesn't
Unless you
matter
say
now.
something that offends them.
Yes.
Like if you say something where they go, some anti-Semitic or whatever it is, where they go never, like you're on their blacklist,
Yeah, because I
you get a million
bombed.
chances.
I
Yeah.
bombed in front of Jamie Masada the
Jamie.
first time I showcased, and he said never to come back. He
Yeah.
forgot. He told me that 2 years after. Ruben Paul, who was our next guest next week. He vouched for me to go in, and I was like, well, I don't want to tell Ruben I bombed in front of Jamie 2 years ago, and Jamie had no remembrance of this. I was just like, well, what they tell you has to be in correspondence, or at least correlated to the year or that they're in. Like, the right to bear arms was a necessary thing before they had rules, regulations, and police.
Right.
They tell you don't go to LA till you're ready. Fuck that, dude. Look, you got through the hardest clubs in the world by going and learning how to do comedy from scratch in LA. I've never heard that. Everybody that I know goes, let's go to LA when we're ready. You went, fuck it. Let's go when I'm fucking out of high school, learn how to get in, and you could do it either way now. That's what I'm learning. It doesn't matter.
And I'll say this too, is like, it's the beauty of being naive and a little egotistical of like, I just felt like I'm going to show up and things are going to happen. And I think a lot of times we do so much research so that we make sure we're getting things right that we end up talking ourselves out of it because, it's like I keep saying I'm going to write a book, but I just keep reading about how to write a book instead of just sitting down and writing a book. Where like with stand up, I just showed up and I just got to work. And I think there's something to be said about just showing up and getting to work and willing to ask questions and willing to fail and, willing to be humble but, to just persevere.
Because like as a black comedian and a black man and as a Asian ethnic, Filipino man doing comedy, I seen the I started, let's say 1995. I seen the changes of what society, what Hollywood, and what us as ethnic people have to keep evolving. Do you see the same in the black community and comedians, how it started, how it was when you started, and how they have to change, how they changed before COVID and how they're changing after COVID? Does the social or the I guess the climate, the social climate dictate that sometimes in your belief?
Absolutely. I was just watching this thing on George Carlin and, when he started, he was Mr. Suit and Tie. It was Mr. Clean Cut. He was a suit, and he had these little one-liner corny jokes, and then he realized like, yo man, we're at war, and there's a civil rights movement going on, and there wheat and burning broads, like there was a lot of frenetic energy in the country and throughout the world at that time. So to go up there and just be telling some corny jokes didn't make sense to him. So he got rid of it and grew his hair out and blah, blah, blah. And so, I see the same thing with black comedians where, when I was starting, it was, black people do this and white people do that. And, it was like that Def Comedy Jam kind of era. And of course, that's always going to be there because some of those things haven't changed. The observations haven't changed, to be honest. So that's always going to be a staple. But I think what's happening with stand up in general is that it's becoming more introspective. People want to know about you. It used to be, what people want to know what you thought about what was happening in the world. But now people are just like, I get enough of what's happening in the world. I want to know about you. What'd you eat for breakfast? Do you have gas? I talk about how I have sleep apnea and and how I'm fighting boredom, playing chess and Like my girlfriend is trying to make me eat too healthy, and the problems with that, and like what's going on in like forget what's going on in a White House, what's going on in my house.
Right,
And I
right.
think that's what people want to hear. People are voyeuristic. It's like,
They're almost
guys,
bored of what the white world is because we've lived it
yeah,
so long.
yeah. It's like, just tell me what's going on in your house. Make me feel less alone. People aren't angry. People were angry in the 70s. And well, I guess people were more hopeful in the 70s, and then it was anger, and now we're exhausted. That's
Yeah.
really where we're at. It was like, man, this year was exhausting. I don't know if you saw Malcolm and Marie on Netflix, but it's exhausting.
Oh
This
yeah.
year has been, we need like a detox. So
Yeah.
people don't want to hear they can't rah rah anymore. They're tired.
It almost seems like this because, like, even watching the black comedians and Asian comedians and ethnic comedians like Maz and whoever, I always seen this. It's let's show them first in the 90s that we're the same as you. Like, we're like this, you're like this, but we're the same. You're like this, we're like this, but we're the same. Then in the 2000s, it turned into this is kind of like, the world got out of North America saw ethnic people more. They're like, hey, these are ethnic people that like us living in America, but this is how they live their lives. Then there was a big black Asian nerd kind of comedy that was just exploding everywhere. It's Hannibal Buress and, just smart, nerdy black and also empowering black people. Jared Carmichael, right? What is it turning into now? Because everybody's exhausted.
Man, that's a great question. For me, the direction I find myself going into is like, what does it mean? What does all of this mean?
Yeah.
I think that we've come into an existential space,
Mm-hmm.
and people are looking for meaning. And so, like I have a bit where I talk about love versus trust, and how um, everything that's happening in the world is rooted in trust. And as soon as we realize that, then we can all unite. Like if you take the gun issue, it's like you talk to somebody who wants a gun, it's like, yeah, well, somebody breaks in my house. What if the government turns on me? Oh, okay, so you don't trust the police to protect you. You don't trust your neighbors not to break in your house, and you don't trust the government to have your back, and you don't trust your insurance to replace the stuff that's taken from you. You talk about immigration, then you're talking about it comes down to trust again, because they're worried about their jobs being taken away. So you don't trust that the economy can sustain more individuals coming in to the workplace, and you don't trust that you can be able to pivot and find another job. When you talk about relationships, relationships aren't built on love. Love is easy. It's built on trust. It's like for a man, like for a woman has to be able to physically trust the man, because we're bigger, right? We can physically. I mean, women can fight. They're taking jujitsu and all that stuff,
Yeah.
but overall, a woman has to be able to trust a man physically, not just to not harm her externally, but internally, right?
Yeah.
And then a man has to be able to trust a woman emotionally,
Mm-hmm.
right? So because as we get older, I turned 45 this year. Our social network gets smaller. Once we get into a relationship, as guys, we stop calling our friends. I'm not calling my family members. Like, I got my girl, I'm good.
That's a
Like, I
good
don't need to talk
boyfriend.
to
That's a
anybody
good
else.
boyfriend. A good boyfriend
Yeah,
doesn't hang out with his boys every weekend.
and that's what you think. And so what happens though is if your girl becomes your everything, and then you are sharing all these parts of you, and then she violates that emotional trust, now you have nowhere else to go. And
Mm-hmm.
then that's where the infidelity, that's where the gambling, the drinking, that's where all these other things start to come in place. So once we start to have more of a discussion of trust, then we can all say, now we got some common ground, right? Now we got common ground, and now we can start to move forward. But so my point is like I think as comedians, as we are able to give more meaning to what is happening around us, um, then I think that's the next wave. Because even when I talk about this in my shows, um, the audience leans in, man. They want to hear this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and they are clamoring for something more genuine and more authentic to you as an individual, as a performer. Because even going back to the trust, why I have trust issues, because my dad was in and out of my life, so I had
Mm-hmm.
this anxiety. I just am always anticipating things to come and go.
Yeah.
I don't feel comfortable. So as I'm adding layers to trust, starting with myself, and then I slowly spin that out into what's happening in society, what's happening with the government, what's happened historically. Then the audience goes, oh, like he's not just up there spouting out stuff. It's very easy to do a quick race joke
Yeah.
or an immigration joke or a whatever joke. But when the audience sees you spending 5, 10, 15 minutes on a topic, then they go,
Mm-hmm.
oh man,
Yeah.
all right.
Yes.
Yeah, we got a little extra. We got a little
Yeah.
extra, you know?
Yeah. Because food is the same thing as comedy, as laughs. McDonald's is food, steak is food, fine dining is food. Laughs
Yeah.
are the exact same thing, but what you take home from a good meal, a healthy meal, well cooked and fresh meal, is the same thing as a really good, clear joke that teaches you something and you could actually leave with some kind of new information. Because when a comic talks these days, for me, what makes me turn and watch is something that hits me a little deeper than the normal laughter. Why wouldn't
Yeah.
it be same for the regular audience? They're
Abs-
they're looking for answers, and they
Mhm.
can't find it in media. They can't find it in their politics. They only can go to certain places that show that, where it's music and stand up. It's one of those things that we're almost we have a stage, we have a podium. I use it to at least I have a part of my act where I devote myself to saying something that means something, because why not use it? You're there already.
Right.
I
Right.
can make you laugh for an hour. Why don't I
Right.
give you something a little extra? Maybe you'll take that home with laughter. It's like even when Bernie Mac started talking about how he has a sister that's in drugs, like who's a drug addict and lost her children. To me, that was the best part of that film, because it
Yeah.
related to other people in my life that I know that have the same problem. And he says, "I'm not ashamed to tell you, some of your families are fucked up too." And I was like,
Right.
what a great joke to make
Right.
everybody
Right.
just calm down a bit and accept what he's going to tell you, because he's speaking from some honesty here, whether it's an act or not. It was honest at one level. It was hard to say that. So there's growth, and I think mature audiences get it more. And I think the audience we're gonna get is going to be a little bit more mature, because look, we just went through some bullshit. Why is it that? Here's a question for you. I'm not Arsenio Hall. Here's a question for you. Why is it that Canada and a lot of many countries are like us, and there's a lot of many countries like U.S. where even though the government says this is what's going to help us, let's all do it. We're wearing masks, social distancing. And there's other countries, not just America, that say, I get that, but we should have the right not to follow those rules, which makes it kind of harder in the whole country, doesn't it?
It does, man, and it's all about leadership, and nobody wants to be told what to do, Ron.
Right.
That's the thing. Especially as Americans, we're the land of individual rights, individual freedoms, and you could have it your way. We're the land of Burger King, right?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
so, what in those times, in these times, you need a leader who can communicate the meaning and the purpose of what we need to do and why we need to do it, in a way that unifies us all. And we didn't have that in our last leadership,
No.
for whatever reason. And so it's not that we as Americans didn't want to do it. It's all about that top down communication.
Right.
And so when you have a flimsy communication coming from the top, and I have compassion for the guy because there's just so much that's still unknown about COVID. But you're the leader, and so you have to pick a stance, and you have to be willing to take a few hits on what you believe and tighten the belt a little bit. So I think that if we had an effective leader who would have communicated in a way that made sense for us, we would have all been on board. I mean, look at how we rallied around. Look at the world right now. And if people talk about how the world's been divided, the world has rallied to come up with a vaccine for this COVID. And we're not just talking about the governments. We're talking about corporations. We're talking about companies. We're talking about cities. Everybody rallied around, donated services, planes, jets, spaces. Everybody was like, what do you need me to do? When do you need me to do it? And it's done. So this idea that we're so divided, it's been debunked. It's not true. We don't get this far as a civilization being divided, as an ambulance goes by. But to answer your question, I think it's about effective communication from leadership.
All right. And I know you have another show
Ron,
at 5:30. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I was just going to let you know about the hour mark.
Yeah, we're at the hour mark now, so we're going to ask just 2 to 3 random questions each that I always want, like that you may have for Leo. And this is it's just random questions. It has nothing to do. It could have to do with comedy. It doesn't. It's just we all have our own POVs and what we want to ask you. For me in general, because I always see you whenever I go to Comedy Magic Club and whatnot.
You want me to play that skeet music before we start those questions?
If you have it.
Yeah, I got it ready. Here, I'll just play.
All right,
right
let's play the random question intro song, and then after that, if you guys have at least one question, you can ask Leo. It's up to you. But I have like 3 on my own. So play the music, and then I'll start asking Leo. You cool with that, Leo?
Oh yeah, we got time. I got to get off at 5:30.
All right, cool. We got 20 minutes. Let's do this.
Here we go.
That was it? Okay, good.
Try to keep under the 10-second mark so we won't get banned.
All right, cool.
No, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. These are skeet questions. They're just random shots to the face questions. What would be your top 3 dishes?
Like food?
For food.
Wow.
It could be healthy or it could be non-healthy. I just want to know because I always see you eat so healthy. I go like this. Does he even eat junk food? Like you're always eating shakes and ordering the salmon.
For sure. I don't. My top 3. Do I
at least
have
top 2?
A dinner. Okay. So there's a New Zealand restaurant because I want to go to New Zealand so bad, in Australia and Antarctica. There's a New Zealand restaurant that make these lamb meat pies. It's so good. It's a meat. It's a tiny meat pie, and it's a little salt on top with rosemary.
Love it.
And it's and man, if you bake rosemary in any crust, I'm there for it. It's man, all day. I had a like a rosemary focaccia sandwich or something like 6 months ago, and I can't stop dreaming about it. Maybe that's what we'll do tomorrow. We'll go get that.
I love Australian and New Zealand pies. That's one of my favorite things. I used to go to New Zealand Festival a lot, so I found out about the New Zealand pies that were lamb, and the Pie Face was their big company back then, and now they're individual companies So yeah, that's a great man. I'm like, that's my top 10. I love lamb pies. I do really love lamb pies.
So I love really hearty foods. As long as
Yeah.
it's hearty, I'm there for it. A stew, a clam chowder. I like things with weight, but I also love I also love things that are like very light. I don't have like as I'm getting older, like I appreciate a chef now. I
Yeah.
understand why it's $10,000 for a tiny thing on your plate because they're not just serving you food; they're serving you texture, temperature, taste. They're satisfying all seven taste buds. They're tapping into your 400 olfactory senses. It's visually compelling. Like it hits on every level. And these are things that you don't really think about when you're cooking. You're just like, for me, I'm like salt, and they're thinking flavor, and I was like, oh, I never really thought about flavor, and they know how to bring out. When I went to Thailand, and they would, you order fish, they just bring you out the fish, but it has so many herbs on top of it
Yeah.
that you're like, oh my God, like I didn't realize. I thought salt was a herb, So when you travel and you see how people cook differently and how they make, and I realize when you feel full, it's not just about the quantity of food. It's also like your taste buds have been all satisfied. You know what I'm saying? And that's what you're paying a chef for, man. So
So
shout
since you're
out to
from,
all the 5-star restaurants.
oh yeah, since you're from Chicago, what's your
Yeah.
best deep dish pizza place?
Oh man, so there was a place like 2 blocks from our house called Uno's
Who
Pizza,
knows?
Oh,
and
I've been there.
me and my mom, yeah, you been
Yeah.
there? So
Yeah.
every paycheck, me, my mom, and my sister would go
Oh
there,
no.
and so that's got to be, it has memories for me.
Yeah.
So Uno's Pizza in Chicago,
Nice.
shout out. Giordano's is great. Giordano's is so
Giordano's.
good.
Love that.
I've flown that pizza out here for
What?
people. I've flown. You can fly it, dog.
What?
You can fly it out
Oh, you could
here.
do that
Yeah.
now with the dry
Yeah.
ice packing and all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
So,
I'm gonna order it.
yeah.
Shit.
Yeah.
Justin, any questions
It-
for
it
Leo?
is worth every penny.
Yeah. What's a famous Belizean dish? Like iconic.
They eat like a lot of pig's tail. No, pig's feet, oxtail, curry goat is
Oh, God.
big. Beans and
nice.
rice. Beans, like a typical plate would be beans and rice, plantain, and then like curry goat or
Okay.
some type of beef, something. So good, so hearty, and then like some potato salad. Something a little cool, something to cool it off
Wow.
with.
So it's kind of Caribbean in a way.
Very Caribbean, very Caribbean. Yeah.
With the
Yeah.
spices they use, it's very. It's like do they use Jamaican or very similar to Jamaican or very similar to?
Very similar. Like how it is. You go into those when you go to an authentic spice store and nothing's labeled. It's just all in like Swiss tie bags. Yes, that's that's how it is, man. And you just
Yeah.
had to know your seasonings, visually to grab it.
Jed.
So yeah.
Jed, do you have any
I got-
question?
Yeah, because I got family out in Illinois too, and I just know me being a teenager in the '90s going there. You being, I think I'm my favorite dynasty will always be the Bulls. What's your so there's two separate ones. There's the Horace Grant era or the Dennis Rodman era. Which is your out of those two teams that did the championships? Which one is your favorite?
See, I hated the Bulls from day one. I was
My
never
bad
a
for asking
Bulls
that question.
fan. I hated Jordan. I was a Utah Jazz fan.
Jazz.
I love the
Stockton.
Stockton
Mailman.
Malone. Stockton Malone.
They're
man.
a good 1-2 punch.
Stockton Malone.
They're a good 1-2
Man,
punch. For sure.
they were so much fun to watch. I love the Pistons.
The bad
throw
boy
some
era?
elbows, man. Yeah,
The Bad Boys,
I was there for it.
The bad boy era.
Yeah, man. And
Bill Laimbeer,
who was
Joe
the
Dumars.
Knicks were fun to watch, but I was a huge uh, Utah Jazz fan. Just Stockton Malone. They were fun to
Wow.
watch. I didn't like Jordan. I don't know why. Part of me didn't like Jordan because it goes back to how we kind of started this, Ron, where you were saying how I pick up body language and I can read people. I knew he was a monster.
Yeah.
I knew he wasn't like he had such a squeaky clean persona, and I was like, "There's just no way that you are a champion at the top of your game, and you're a nice guy. You're not Mister Rogers. You
Right.
can't be,
Can't be without
right?"
dedication.
And so that's why I was a Kobe Bryant fan because he let you know from day one, look, I'm Black Mamba. Like you get too close, you'll get jacked up messing with me.
Yeah.
Serena Williams, she has some, she let you know she got some teeth on her. So I've always liked players who, from the jump, let you know, like, don't
they
get too
were.
comfortable around me.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's why I was huge Charles Barkley fan.
Jesus.
Huge. That was my
Did you see
guy
The
right
Last
there. He
Dance?
was trash talking.
Yeah.
Say it again.
The Last Dance. Did you see it on Netflix?
Oh, I loved it, but I did love The Last Dance. I think
Yeah.
it was great because there you got to see
Michael
he's
swearing.
smoking cigars, he's
Yeah.
swearing,
Insider.
he's
Drinking
kicking
beer.
back drinks,
Gambling.
gambling.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is the Michael I could have got behind.
Yeah.
But I want to be like Mike. I was like, I'm not the
Yeah.
one.
You
Like,
didn't
he back
you didn't
there-
like Flintstone vitamins, Michael Jordan.
Nah. I was like, I know you back there hitting somebody with a chair right now. Like, let's go. Tom Brady. That's why, I'm a huge fan of Tom Brady because he's a champion. He's winning, but he's not afraid to get up in your face and let you know what's what. And on camera, you don't have to be a lip reader to know how many F bombs he's dropping when people aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. So I'm here for it, man. I'm here for that authenticity. But don't try to act like everything's hunky dory. It's not, because you can't win in a sweater vest. Let's go.
So who would
You're
be
the first
go ahead.
fan of the Utah Jazz I've ever heard from. Like, it's rare. It's so rare, dude. Let alone a black fan of the Utah Jazz. That's super rare.
Yeah, with Stockton
It's like-
Malone, they got some. They had that connection. They were
did,
to watch.
man.
The 1-2
Yeah.
punch.
Yeah.
1-2 punch.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
I
actually
think
makes
they
me.
were fun to watch.
When you said you like the honesty of the person's personality, whether they're being mean or not, at least it comes from an honest place. The comment is the same thing. Like watching Patrice, you go, am I being as honest as I should be, or should I not be as honest as him because you may lose people? So which comedians to you inspired you to be honest? Because you're very honest in your comedy.
You know what? I'm inspired by most of them, the ones who are really doing, because I think when we talk about saying your truth and being honest, for some reason people think you have to go to a mean place to do that.
Exactly.
It's like,
They
hey, I'm
always
just
say
being
that.
honest. Yeah.
Yeah.
And really, honesty and truth is it's really about for you, what's true for you, meaning do you really care enough about what you're saying and talking about to extend this dialogue, or are you just saying these things because it's going to be controversial? I think about that before I send out a tweet. There are times where I want to say something that's a little
that's so true.
political, and then I go, I don't want my energy wrapped up in that.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then that means that what you are sharing isn't the real truth of what it is you're wanting to say.
Right.
Does that make sense?
No, 100%. Because
It's
I know a lot of comedians that want to be edgy just because they want the respect of the other comedians. Or
Right.
And then you see this one person that gets the showcase because he's dancing upside down, and then he tells a story about why he's the way he is or she's the way she is, and doesn't kill. but gets those scattered laughter of honesty. The laughter is honest too, rather than trigger word honest laughter, you know? And I know the difference. And some people go, I just killed that show. And I go, yeah, but I don't say it to them, but I'm like, this other person was more honest in what they wanted.
I think part of the problem is a lot of comedians think it's a combat. They think it's a battle. It's a war. And, you know, and I mentioned that earlier because in a sense that was a competition format when I knew Esty was in the audience. Like there's a different mindset that you have to go into when you're performing in those situations. Just like, are you taping your hour right now? Or are you working on your hour? Like it's a different mindset. Yeah. So for me, when people talk about when stand-up comedy started, there are books that are like, oh, it started in 65. It started in 33. For me, stand-up comedy started back in the caveman days, in the tribal era with the Neanderthals. Well, not Neanderthals, because I don't know where their speech pattern was, but the Cro-Magnons, when at the end of a day, after we've hunted and killed and cleaned the fish, and we gathered and we ate and we're sitting around the campfire and we're grooming each other, there was a master storyteller. There was the one person who would start orating and talking about life and the things that the young people needed to know and the things that they've learned, and everybody leaned in and listened in. Mm-hmm. And he had to be captivating, right? Because he was the orator. And that for me is the root of stand-up comedy. Mm-hmm. We're doing it at night. And yes, there's not a campfire, but it's dim and the lights are low and they're all gathered around. And so when I'm on stage, the audience is my tribe. These are my family members. We just hunted and killed. We're all going through this pandemic together. We're all going through this Black Lives Matter and the protests. And we all just went through the presidency. We're all going through the same stuff together. So now, elder statesmen, please make sense of it all. Mm-hmm. Please help bring this all together so that we can all sleep at night. And for me, when you approach stand-up comedy from that perspective, you can relax. Mm-hmm. You don't have to kill. You can relax now. Mm-hmm. And the people will keep coming back because you're talking from your heart to theirs. But a lot of comics miss it because everybody wants to be Andrew Schultz now. Jesus, and say something incendiary. Right. But that's not your truth. That's not how you really view the world.
How much do you think the percent of comedians copying what's hip, which is Andrew Schultz now, Dane Cook back in the day, Chris D'Elia recently? How many percent do you think follow, and how many percent do you think lead on their own belief system in comedy? Because I see more followers than none.
Well, and I'm gonna say you see more followers than none because there's always more people trying to get in.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Like when you think about a college, there's more incoming freshmen than graduating class typically, right? So there are more newbies than there are veterans, right? Does that make sense?
100%. So, yeah, you relate everything to school sometimes because you've been a student of life your whole life.
You've been in school for so long.
Yeah, and so when you when you are starting off, you should be imitating others. Because you need a framework. You should because that means that you're studying. That means that you're looking to see what other people have done, what other people are doing.
So it's not a bad thing.
And so, it's not a bad thing. Yeah. When you're starting off, you need to. I sounded like Chris Rock early on.
Hell yeah!
I was like, "There's black people," and then I was doing the whole.
There's Filipinos and there's Vietnamese. Yeah. I was doing
that. So. Imitation, when you talk to anybody of any art form, whether you're a DJ, a writer, a comedian, they start off through imitation. If you're a kid, that's how you learn language. That's how you learn how to walk. That's how you learn how to carry yourself. You're imitating the people who have come before you. And then at some point, you get your own walk, you get your own way of holding yourself
Yeah.
and speaking and writing and doing stand up. That's going to happen naturally because life is happening around you. And so those things that may have worked for you in the beginning, you go, now that I think about it, that's not really how I see things. It doesn't really work for me. So then you become an alchemist and you start taking all the lessons in the different people that you've studied from, and you go, all right, where am I in this?
Right.
And then you got to start over, right? And then the egg cracks and you emerge and you become an embryo again. And now you start to find your voice, and that's where you see things taking off.
Hey man, we had loved having you on there, and every time we speak, we get really deep, which we need to do more. Most of these conversations that I see never really hit to that deep point, which is fine. It's very entertaining either way. But like I said, taking home something after a good show or podcast is my goal as well. I'm happy you're still fucking positive and you're taking care of yourself. How is it in LA now? Like, are you done with it, or are people about to leave? Like, what's going on with the comedy there now?
Man, I live in San Diego now.
Oh wow, you moved.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's just, a lot of industries dried up, and I've been fortunate to where I can still life coach,
Nice.
via Zoom, run my men's group. I also, have my podcast, Before You Kill Yourself, is a suicide prevention podcast.
Nice.
Able to do that. And then also audition. Everything is through Zoom. So I actually need this pandemic to keep going, because
Me too.
the thing I don't want to do is for this thing to lift, and now I got to drive to
Oh
LA,
god.
for an audition,
Fuck
and then
that. I
drive.
really don't want to do it no more. Dude, I moved back to Canada, and it was open from July, August, September, October, and then they locked everybody down for 3 months, and it got me back to fight shape and fight weight, and there was no fight, and I was like, this is the worst feeling ever, because at least Muhammad Ali waited 3 months to fight Foreman, and he got stronger. I just got bigger and better for nothing, and I'm like, emotionally that was too stressful for me, and I only want to go back when it's 100% back. I don't want to go back and get psyched and come back. I hate that feeling. I love that
Off to you,
song
Ron.
too. You know what's cool about it?
Is it
Off to you.
off to you?
Oh, thanks, man. That was my bumbling intro as usual, but that's the same artist, right?
Yeah, the same artist from the intro song. But yeah, we're gonna
man.
have him on one of the food vlogs as a guest here.
Oh,
So
perfect.
we just
man.
gotta find a date to book him.
Okay, awesome. Hey, welcome to Ron the World, episode 41 or 2, not sure.
Well, if
and
they're
today-
listening to this, they've already listened to the whole podcast.
Oh, this is
That's
at the
fine.
end of it now?
This is at the end now.
Yeah, there's the last part.
Do we have to have him
the
DJ
outro.
again or no?
He just did.
No, but do because it wasn't a smooth transition to me, do we have to do it over?
Oh, well, I'm
can
going to
do
do
it.
that later. Do it later. Yeah, this is all good stuff.
All right, that was our 41st or 2nd episode with Leo Flowers. How'd you enjoy Leo, guys? Did you enjoy him?
He was great.
He's awesome, man. He's just interesting. He's just an interesting, smart guy.
Yeah,
all
'cause
the
he comes
topics
from a
are
different-
pretty deep.
Yeah, he comes from a different background from most comics. Like, he's a really smart and also a
Educated.
psychology major. So that was different.
educated.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well spoken.
Yeah, it's like
Interesting
he's not a
points.
typical comic persona, so to say. From all your other guests, he was like,
Okay, what's a
Next
typical
level.
persona? Because you're not a comic, but you've seen all of our guests. What's a typical persona comic that you've seen on our guests? Like, what is it?
Because Leo, he never really dropped any like one-liners to make it funny. Where they'll
Yeah.
get deep, and then all of a sudden they'll throw in a one-liner to make it laugh. But he kept it like straight, and it was like really
Yeah.
deep. And it's
That's true.
Yeah, it's a little
He's saying
different.
Leo is successful. Out of all the comedians we've had on, Leo's the most successful.
Yeah, all the rest of the ones broke down and cried. collapsed during the COVID. This guy did not collapse.
Oh man, he adapted and changed gears, man, and just
Yeah,
did what
he
did,
pivoted
you know?
for sure.
Yeah, he had.
Yeah.
I'm
these
happy.
are
You know
the
what's cool?
classes?
He's still, huh?
He was talking about all the classes he's taking.
He takes it, but he also gives classes because he's a psychology teacher. But
Wasn't he
does
saying he was like taking like language, art, music,
Sign
remember?
language. She's doing
Yeah,
sign
sign
language.
lan- yeah.
She was doing
Yeah,
he's
learning how to play guitar.
Spanish lessons. Then
That's
he
so
does his,
crazy.
marriage counseling, or just
Marriage
counseling,
counseling.
life coaching, and
Has a lot on his plate. That's for sure.
it's
Yeah.
keeping him busy and sane. The men's group.
That's what really does it. You gotta put your podcast together. You gotta join a group, take a lesson. I want to do DJing. I want to start going to Jed's thing and start learning to DJ just to keep my mind creative and keep moving.
Yeah, Leo just basically created because he's a comedian, so he created his own audience in a way, which is his men's group, his
That's so
people
smart.
people that he can talk to, the therapist, in
like
a
a
way it's kind
supportive
of like he created an
network.
audience. Yeah, he created an audience for him to listen to or like interact with, rather than
He
us
should
trying
really
to do comedy.
get a clubhouse room.
He'd be great
Just
on
talk
Clubhouse.
talk about depression or mental state and also
Yeah.
the psychology. Like, how was your show last night? This was last time. So Justin hosts a show on Clubhouse with our friend PK and another comedian, an Indian comedian, and it used to be male Asians are in now or something. What's it called?
Yeah, it used to be
Remember
Asian guys are fetishes now or something like that.
Yeah, I'm not
And
complaining.
we
or
don't
something.
mind.
We
Yeah.
don't mind. And then when I was in there were a lot of other Asian guys just flexing, straight up flexing, going, I used to be in jail and look at my arms. It was so weird. And then
Yeah. I
and then
remember
there
that
was
guy.
and then there was a guy, and then there were these 18-year-old girls like, oh, that's so cool. You were in jail. Awesome. And then there was this 18-year-old guy was like, what is this stupid group? There's a lot of the sex trade in Asia happening in Cambodia right now, and this room is not helping by calling Asian fetishes. And PK and Justin spoke up and said, no, this is not about Asian fetishes from a female, sex trade scene. We're talking about Asian males being accepted as sex symbols now.
Because we were emasculated back then. We were never
considered, and he was like, you guys are gross. This is bullshit. And he left. And then the girls were like, you guys are mean to him. And PK was like, no, we gave him an opportunity to speak. He didn't give us the opportunity to speak and didn't even use his listening ears. He heard a trigger word and
fetish.
A fetish, and he somehow transferred
Took
that
that
as
child
the
sex.
That's all he
sex
heard.
trade. Yeah, and
Yeah,
he's only
that's all he-
18.
Yeah, and then here's the stupid part. His Instagram name is called Nasty Valley, right? And then you look at his pictures, and it's all the pictures are of him like topless, like looking all like cute and shit. And he's shirtless, and then he has like a baby pacifier as a nipple ring, and then you want to talk about how like stop fetishizing my Cambodian people. I'm like, motherfucker, put some clothes on and
Stop using your
trying
fucking
to-
nipple as a
stop-
fucking cow teat.
Stop posting these like thirst traps, trying to look all sexy, and then you talk about how your people's children are being raped and pillaged, and they're left with pregnancies and
And then what did the 18-year-old girl said to you after that?
STDs.
She's like, you're being too generalizing on him, and you're like, you're
judgmental.
18. I can't have these conversations with an 18-year-old right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and you know what was annoying about that girl was she was there from the beginning of the room, so she knew what we were talking about, but she still didn't have our back. Like she knew what the context was. She was actually participating in some of the discussions. Like it was all good, and then she just did this whole like fucking 180 on us. I'm like,
So was she
what are you
back with
talking
that guy with yesterday?
what was that?
Was she back with that guy, the asshole guy yesterday? when
No,
we did the
she
Clubhouse?
wasn't. She wasn't in the room. Nah, I think.
So was it
yeah,
better
I
this
think she's,
time? Like, was it different?
It was okay. So it was a little weird. Like, so this room was started off as Asian guys are hot now, and then it turned into animal sound. So so anybody could join and like do impressions of animal sounds. And it turned in. Yeah.
How is this supposed to help us get girls?
Well, it was interesting. It was interesting because like it was basically a room to like not take serious and to like blow off steam from this whole like pandemic or whatever.
Yeah.
And just to
But
kind of
now
like
it's
release.
like to the fucking low hanging fruit of comedy. Sounds.
Yeah, everyone was doing like
Animal
shitty
impressions.
impressions, and
What was
animal
yours?
sounds impressions.
What was yours?
I did Cookie Monster.
Okay.
It's not even an animal.
C is for cookie.
I would do dirty Tito sounds. I'd be like, C is for something. C is for something else that I like to eat.
C is for crispy pata.
The crispy pata walkies. We should call a group called the crispy pata walkies.
Yeah, but it was fun because like all these, everyone started jumping. I think we had like I don't know over 100 people in the room, and people just would jump in. But then it was like you know, it was just kind of like an icebreaker, just to do something silly, fun, kind of not take it serious. And then like topics started to become serious. You know, asking questions about comedy or like what else was going on? Oh, you guys know MC Jin, right? From 106
he's
and
awesome.
Park, the
Oh
battle
yeah,
rapper.
106 and Park. Yeah.
Yeah, so he comes through a lot through all the Asian chat rooms in Clubhouse. So he came on. This is like the second time we had him. So he was doing like another freestyle rap, but he was saying how like battle rapping kind of has evolved over the years. That it's not just like dissing, but they have like positive battle rappers. So instead of like doing jokes about each other, it's like all like compliments.
You know what? That's so ridiculous.
There's a Christian
Bro,
rap
it
now or
was
something.
Christian
insane,
rap
man.
battle.
Yeah, and like he did this whole
so
like
stupid.
compliment rap freestyle about PK, dude. It was crazy, dude. Like how
You know, we kind of did that with Joey Gila when we did the roast on Joey. It was all positive stuff about Joey, even though we were making fun of him. So I kind of understand that. You know what? Because Asian people in general can't do roasts. We
They
get
can't
offended
do roast?
so much because we're passive aggressive. So if you ever saw
That's true.
an Asian roast battle, it'd be both of us ignoring each other. That's all.
Yeah, it would just be like really quiet, right?
Yeah, really quiet, and so and say this. Oh, you should start eating salads. Like that's all. That's the diss.
like,
it's like
What's
why are
that
you
smell?
why are you so fat? It's just like it's not even a joke. It's just a question.
Yeah, straight
all
up.
questions.
Straight
There's
up
no statement.
yeah.
Yeah. Why are you single? Or
Yeah.
why did he leave you? Or something like that.
You know what? Honestly, we should have two titas just making fun of each other. Have like Veronica versus a Filipino fob from the Philippines, and have that. You know,
Or we
a
can
roast,
find,
a
Filipino
roast
Karen.
lechon battle.
Yeah.
Let's find the Filipino Karen. Fucking
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Right.
there's a video that me and Jed filmed for this Filipino Karen that was in a
Oh,
restaurant.
I think I
last
saw
year.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and she was just. It was amazing because you rarely get to see a Filipino bitch lose it in public. It was
What,
like,
what,
wow.
what was the issue?
She didn't like
Her
the sinigang,
fucking
but she
shit
ate it
sinigang.
already. How do you not like sinigang when you finish it?
Well, because she had
How do you-
the stomach flu, remember? She had the
Yeah,
stomach
but
flu. She came from the
it's-
hospital.
Yeah, but I can't eat a whole bunch of peanut butter. I'm allergic to peanuts, first of all. And at the end go, oh, I'm allergic to this.
Yeah. Plus,
Well,
like,
you
just don't eat
finished
there anymore.
17. You finished 17 fucking kare kare dishes. You fat fuck. Like, why
I'm
didn't you
allergic, I don't
complain
wanna
when you
pay.
first tasted it?
Why did you eat all the bogoong too? Or some shit.
Well, you ate so much, and you're not gonna pay. She wanted to slip the check.
That was
Just
pretty
wanted
much
more.
That makes sense. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Remember the owner goes, then why'd you come here? Because I was told the sinigang was good.
Yeah, but you finished it, you fucking bitch.
Oh my
You know what's the
God.
coolest thing about being Filipino? You could actually not speak Filipino in public. Like these guys were speaking straight up English, even though the accent was there. Like they're
Yeah.
both Filipino. You know
Yeah.
what it reminds me of? a Hollywood movie on Asians and in fucking China or Japan and them speaking English to each other. I'm like, why are they speaking English to each other?
Yeah.
Why don't you give me that bucket, Toto? And you're like, just talk fucking your dialect. I almost wanted to go, thank you for translating what you guys are saying.
Yeah.
Because if that happened in Tagalog, I'd be out. I'd be like, this is bullshit. I don't know what they're saying.
Yeah.
Dude, that was such a funny video.
Justin, have you ever seen Filipinos lose it and fight in public? Dude, it's the best.
Oh, dude.
More than any culture.
Yeah,
Dude.
I haven't seen it live, but there's another viral video of this wife who confronted her husband who was on a date with his mistress at the mall. Dude, it was hilarious, man. She was just kept like just screaming, and it's like one of those like screaming and slapping arguments. Like it was so funny. It was like. Dude, it was so funny. And she just
that sound again? I know that sound. I remember that sound growing up with my mom crying or something like,
Yeah.
why and he's just taking it.
Yeah.
Like, stop it.
Yeah, you
Stop
know,
it.
it's
You won't
basically kind
understand.
of like how it's basically kind of like how when black people try to make a point, they always clap when they talk about their words. The same shit with like Filipinos.
Emphasize.
They emphasize it with their arguments, like and then it went from like the table to outside of the restaurant, and the way she like ended the argument, like she was arguing and sounded like she was dying at the same time. Like it was so like Filipino soap opera ending, and I was just laughing my ass off watching this whole thing. I gotta send it to you, man. It's so funny.
Justin has one of the funniest stories of getting McDonald's in the Philippines in Manila with his family. So if you go to Manila or you go to overseas, it's different. What they do is you order and then you just wait in a giant crowd, and then they
call
say
your number.
and then you come and pick it up. And it was packed, right?
Yeah, it was packed, and
it was a bakla, right? Doing
they call out the numbers, and I've noticed I always wondered why they always have a gay guy call out the numbers, because they usually have like that personality that's like a little bit more bubbly and friendly, so they're not shy to like call out numbers, right? Yeah. So, but this guy, he was so extra, dude. Like it was super, it was so gay, dude. Like it was so funny and gay. And,
we're not making fun of gay people. We're saying
we're not.
This guy is so he's over, man.
He was just
sometimes extra.
He was gay.
Extra.
He was gay.
Yeah,
he
but
was just
you could just look and do it.
So he would call out. Hold on, I gotta. Okay, so he would call out numbers like he go like this is exactly how this rhythm, the cadence, it was like this. He goes number 627, police. Like the whole fucking every number was like police. And I was waiting in the back like this the whole time, like, yo, why is this guy calling out numbers like that? And after he I could tell he was doing it on purpose, because he would turn to his coworkers and do this, and they walk off. Like he would stick out his tongue, like, he was like, I can't believe I'm getting paid to do this. It was like kind of that kind of a look.
But yeah, it's actually true. It is actually true that in the Philippines, they actually put the gay guys up front. You know how there's a different staff in the front, and then there's a different staff in the back. Yeah, and they always put the more animated people in the front. Right. So it's more all the gay guys are in the front of the Jollibee. Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, I love gay Filipinos.
Dude, they're the best, man.
Don't you love gay Filipinos?
Bro,
if I were to be molested by one, I would check Filipino all day, bro.
I feel so safe. I don't know why. It's like a mom it's like my Filipino mom, and then like the dad too. It's both.
Yeah.
Wait,
growing up in the Philippines, you got to hang out with Filipinos that were also international schools, or most of them were not in the international schools?
Both. I had both. I dropped out of high school, and then when I dropped out of high school, I just hung out with people non-international school.
So you were bad. You actually got into drugs and stuff back then?
I was just lazy. Just lazy.
Oh, so you're not a druggie that you stopped school and your parents hated you?
Oh no, that happened. Yo, no, that happened for sure. I mean, I smoked weed and I got caught growing weed and shit, but like I wasn't a druggie. I was just really, I just hated. Don't go to school. You know what I mean? Just didn't show up and shit.
I get it.
Yeah.
So you were buying and selling cigarettes on the street with the rest of them.
Yeah, exactly.
You were selling those flower rosaries.
You're not using your half white privilege to get shit. You're not. You're not utilizing who you really are.
I actually worked at a call center in the Philippines, and if you have an American accent, no, this is in Angeles City,
Angeles.
Pampanga.
Pampanga.
Yeah. And if you have an American accent, you're like God in a call center because you know the accent, because they, you know, when people call, they don't want to hear an accent. Because I work for T-Mobile, so if you know, American white guy from like Idaho or some shit picks up the phone and he's like, hello, this is T-Mobile, they're gonna be like, what the fuck is this? You know what I mean? Yeah. But then that's why, like, when people started hanging out with me so they could talk like me, you know, it's weird.
Right.
Yeah.
The American accent, you get hired because you can pretend to be the manager on the call.
Pretty
center,
much,
so you could like basically trick them.
Yeah, exactly. I am the manager.
Like, if you speak Bisaya, and you speak English, the accent isn't thick. And I noticed like Tagalog speaking Filipinos, when they speak English, that's when it's really thick.
Really, it does. It is. I think it is.
I can hear it. Like, all my Bisaya friends, when they speak English, I can hear it. But it's not as thick as like 2005 from like a Tagalog speaking.
Yeah.
It's more, the Bisaya English accent is more subtle. It's more subtle.
Yeah.
There's more emphasis on Tagalog words.
Yeah. It's like that hard tongue. Like tangina.
You never tried to do. You never tried to do like the acting out there, Ronnie, because you're half. you get hired as a
bro. You could have introduced us to Jasmine Curtis. This is what you're.
I did when I was a kid. I was like a diaper baby, and then I did do like an audition one time. But I was fat. I was always fat my whole life. So they don't want fat.
Now?
I'm a little bit fat now, but I was way fat.
This is the reason why you're on this podcast. All right. Yeah. So
it starts with JedRocks, you, then me, and then Justin. That's how it's gonna be.
I'm 240 right now.
How tall are you?
He's 4'2".
You're what?
I'm 6'1".
Oh, okay. Damn, so you're taller than me.
You're taller than Justin?
Yeah, he's like an inch taller than me.
But I'm 240.
How much do you weigh, Justin? You're like 140.
250. 250.
Amazing. You fit in perfectly.
Yeah. Dude. You know what's crazy? You just have the face of a short guy for some reason. I don't know what it is.
It's just I have like a smaller.
Probably because you have more. You look. Lift your hair. How much forehead do you have?
I have this.
Nothing.
It's
still low. It's still Planet of the Apes.
Your hair. That's what you tell
her. Let me see your crotch.
Lift your hair is what you tell a drunk or who's throwing up by the dumpster.
Speaking from experience,
lift your hair.
That's Justin's go-to.
No, I encourage them. I don't actually lift it for them. I guide them.
Lift your hair while you. Let me lift your hair while you vomit.
By the dumpster.
Is this your card?
Oh my god! But the Filipino industry is also run by so much baklas, dude. It's amazing.
They own it. They run that shit.
Yeah, my friend.
Dude, I had a friend. They said if you suck a bunch of
dicks,
gay dick, you're gonna be the number one guy in Manila.
So how come you're not number one?
Right, and he's the number one guy in Manila.
Are you serious?
No, I'm just playing.
Who was it?
No.
Paulo Pascal.
Yo.
No, but I did have a friend who did that Pinoy Big Brother thing and got really famous. But then I don't know how many dicks he sucked. I'm not that close to him, you know, so I don't know.
But you think he did?
I don't. I mean, I'm not. I'm not gonna say. I don't know. That's the answer. I don't know.
my friend.
Wow.
My friend was a girl that won all the competitions here when she was 18. Went to the Philippines, and they would. Because she was a girl, you didn't have to do anything like that. You know, they're like, but you did have to kind of sleep with the straight old titos that ran shit. Yeah. Like, you know, like she was saying there was like so many of those guys out there, like I think you have really good promise. Here's my card. That's the key to your room. Exactly. And then they would fuck him, and the next day, the next week, she couldn't find the guy.
This is the key to your future.
How do you think all those import models get famous?
Sorry?
How do you think all those import models get famous?
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just like, really? And she's like, yeah. And then there's one girl was crying, going, "You never called me back after that night." And he was like this. It was a roller coaster night. I don't remember much. It was a roller coaster night. I don't remember much. Did I insert it in you? I don't remember. Like they always play. I don't know. I have a wife. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I love that character. Can we please write a movie about that? And me and Justin can play those guys.
You're the Filipino Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah, that's my favorite shit.
Just base it on a real guy because there's like 500 of them. So
okay, Ron Josol.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah,
you own the life rights.
Oh God. Are we good?
Yeah, I think we can wrap it up. Plugs.
All right. Do we have to do any plugs?
Who has plugs?
Or I'll start. Hey, so watch us every Monday. We upload our new episodes. Ron Josol, Ron the World, at Ron Josol 1 for my IG. And next, Jed.
All right. Check out my blog, JedRocks.me. If you want to learn how to DJ, check out tabletutors.com. We have some nice looking swag inspired from the past. This is across colors, if you remember. And yeah, and if you're a Filipino that likes clothing, check out philkinclothing.com.
All right.
Cool.
What do we got, Justin?
My podcast, ROFL Show Podcast, Rivera on the Floor Laughing, on YouTube, all the podcast platforms. Social media is just on my website, justinrivera.com/social media. So I'm on all of them.
And Clubhouse show.
Oh, Clubhouse too. I'm on there too, at the Justin Rivera, which is pretty much all my other social medias. So check me out there.
Ronnie, you got anything plugged?
Yeah, I produced another podcast called Losing It with Nelsie Spencer, and then I have a website, expand your online presence at ronniefw.com.
Awesome. So next guest we're gonna have is a close friend of mine, and that's actually I think Justin friends with him too. Ruben Paul. So he was running one of the hottest shows in LA before the pandemic in the Laugh Factory every Tuesdays called Ruby Tuesdays. He's been a fixture in LA circuit for 25 years. He is Russell Peters' main opening and I would say touring act that goes around the countries with him. So we'll have him next podcast. You'll see that. But wait for this one. I mean, every Monday we upload the new podcast, and that's it. Thanks. We'll see you guys again.
All right, you can go ahead. But yeah, there you go. Yeah.
While in bed every weekend, so we keep it burning at my fans, yeah. Lately I don't know no better. Clothes off, had cold, no credit. Tone deaf, I slowly go left. Holding my Godzilla close to my chest.